record. Hello, welcome to Jesus TV. This is another episode of Jesus in This Mess, and we are going to seek to find more Jesus in our conversations today. So, Jonathan, tell us about where you're at.
Yeah, so I don't know if you look right there. So that's the temple for the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. It's kind of in like a seashell sort of a configuration. And then right
Nice.
here, you probably can't read this. See how close I can get.
Oh, there we can, yeah.
Yeah.
August 31st, 1831, Joseph Smith, the prophet and founder of the church, with 7 other church leaders, dedicated this site for the temple in the city of Zion, where this church believes the Lord will come to his people in the last days. Awesome.
Yeah. And then there's just like on this, I don't know what that is over there, the big dome building, but I'll probably go.
Conference center, probably.
Yeah, probably something like that. And then down the hill, down that way, is the visitor center for the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. And then strangely, well, but then like there's like over there, that white church kind of right there, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's the temple site. Those the ones that are like the temple site church. And right around here, there's like several different kind of offshoots of Mormonism, like all of them, like within all of them surrounding the temple site. And then weird of all weirds, this I do not understand why this is here, but kind of walking over there now. This was put here, I think, by the UN, by the United Nations. I don't get why this is here. It says the UN Peace Plaza, established by the Greater Kansas City chapter of the United Nations Association. Oh, so why they put it here next to all these Mormon sites. It's kind of odd, but I don't know if you can see this. There's a statue of a woman with a dove, like reaching up, and there's a dove.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to know why that site was selected.
Yeah, it's, to me, honestly, it's kind of bizarre. It's like, why would the United Nations take an interest in the temple site for the Mormons, the center stake site? I don't understand why.
Maybe it's the one world order laying claim.
I wonder. Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, it's like my dad, of course, taught me all about how United Nations is of the devil. But I think there's a lot of people involved that are probably, have good intentions. Obviously, they try to do good things. Some we agree that are good. Some we don't think are so good. But anyways, it's just odd. Like, why in the world? It's like literally, I just walked across the street. It's right across the street from the temple site. But it really is a beautiful place. Like with the big and all of the beautiful buildings, and a sacred place for a lot. And so it feels sacred. I can feel the sacredness of all of these people's different beliefs. Even though they don't all agree on everything, they all seem to agree that this spot is a sacred place in their hearts, and I can feel the sacredness of that. You know what I mean?
Yep. I do too. People who are striving to get more Jesus in their life, God honors that. If you're truly, because he knows there's other things they could strive for that get entangled in all of our lives. Do we strive for money? Do we strive for unholy things? Yeah, we worship other gods. That's part of what we learned in Antichrist, growing up in a U.S. Antichrist, all as well in Zion Babylon cult culture, is striving for things that we probably ought not, at least not strive heavily for. But that said, most human beings strive for something better, something good, and that is of God. That's the gospel for me. Is the striving. It's the trying. It's not necessarily the accomplishing within your lifetime. It's the striving that can lead to some accomplishments within a person's lifetime, but that doesn't matter as much as are you trying. And that's what God's put in my heart to understand. That is the gospel. That is a righteous person. They don't curse God and die. They don't stop. They try. They may curse God once in a while, and then pick up their hand cart and go another 10 miles. So it's okay to be unholy for a time. Um, that's why Jesus has to be redeemer. He's got to redeem some people that are unholy. And so we all oblige him that, like, oh, okay, I guess I can be unholy. Um, and um, and we learn to maybe not want to be unholy, and then we can make even more progress. But that's within the context of trying. So that's how I would, I guess, view those other faiths, competing claims. It's all brought together and made holy, and gives you that feeling because you see some people trying. Hopefully, they're trying their broken best. Yeah.
Well, and interestingly, it's like there's the paradigm of those that are the chosen and the unchosen. And it's funny to be in a place where each one believes we are the chosen, and has a choice as to how to look at the others. Like they can look with compassion on the unchosen, but it's interesting to realize that whatever the paradigm we choose, to somebody else we are the unchosen. We are the
Yes,
ones
that's
that
right.
either need to be hated if they're angry people, or need to have have compassion upon, like, oh, those poor people who are so deluded.
Yes,
They think they're the ones, and they don't realize that really we're the one. you
yes,
know
yes. That's
and
right.
love, it's like, it does strike me that it's cool that this is all existing in harmony. You know what I mean? All
Yeah.
these competing ideas, they coalesce in the feeling that's here, coalesces into a feeling that's really loving and harmonious. It's beautiful. So
Yeah, because it could be Hatfield and McCoy kind of stuff, where there's every morning they wake up and there's some new graffiti written on one another's temple. It's not that way, and that is good.
yep, I think so. Yep. So what do you want to talk about today?
Oh, let's see. I guess I was drawn to informal because I was, as Jesus TV was starting, Jesus and I were eating breakfast. I do everything with Jesus. So I just noticed how informal Jesus TV is, and I like it. It's like people like, can you blow your nose somewhere else? Oh yeah, well, just forgive me. Treat me like family. Do you make when family members blow their nose, do they have to leave the room? Well, if so, I'm sorry for all your family members. That I intend to show up to Jesus TV respectful. I got my clothes on, so it's not. If I had only family members, I might at least have my shirt off, just having my garments there. I would certainly have shorts on, which I do, and so uh, that's something I see Jonathan's comfortable doing too, is showing the messy parts of our lives. And we don't bring a lot of energy to impression management, as they would call it in sociology. Like, how can I impress people that this is a legitimate TV program? I know one way I can do it is make sure I show up and I'm pristine. like some Facebook promoter. Well, Jonathan and I aren't. God hasn't put it in our hearts to be that way. Not on Jesus TV. Both of us will show up to, funerals, church services, and and job interviews. Um, Appropriately, because those are spheres, other people's spheres we're walking into, and we can respect the boundaries, just like Jonathan's respecting the boundaries of where he's at by the temple um, of the Church of Christ. And so that's what I guess I wanted to reflect on my uh, personal relationship with Jesus, tying into the Jesus theme. Um, when I got born again in 2015, that's one of the things that started shifting in a major way. And I knew it was right, it felt right. And Jesus was inviting me to an informal relationship with him. He's the King of Kings. So if I approached him on his throne, I would do like everybody else. I'd like, oh my goodness, this is so huge. I would probably, whatever was appropriate. That's his. If he has a throne, and then it's his defined space. Like, this is my throne, and this is where people come to worship me. And Greg, don't do your bouncy, trouncy, fun. Do it more like you're coming to a funeral or coming to church. Like, oh, I get it, Jesus. And so we all have experiences like that where we might have an informal relationship with somebody, but then when we're on their territory, like maybe you're really good friends with somebody who's a CEO or a church leader, and when they are in a public sphere, when it's not just you and them, then it's one way to honor them and be kind to them is to not have that informality flood the sphere, and because there's and so that's one of those energies that I have to manage because um, my relationship has become very strongly and even publicly informal. Now, publicly, I would just say change the channel. If you don't like what Jonathan and I are doing here with Jesus, change the channel. You're we're not having a funeral for one of your kin. We're not having a funeral for somebody of renown. So there's and if there even if we were, you go to a different channel. Um, and so that's part of the relationship that I've developed with Jesus is a much broader and more comfortable, more familiar, like doing it like I would with a friend or with a family member, doing my relationship. So I'll end this by saying, one of the songs I sing each morning, it's called the Blanket Song. What a friend we have in Jesus. What a friend I have in Jesus. And referring to him as friend, um, that is done like in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. That term, using Jesus as a friend, is rare. It's not like it's not used, but it's rare. I think maybe 10 times a year. It's a daily thing. It's a multiple times each day that I either refer to Jesus as my friend or signal that way. Anyway, that's my thoughts, Jonathan. It's segueing off of the nature of this program, that this Jesus TV program, Jesus in This Mess, and just pointing to the relationship I have with Jesus, and it's become more comfortable, and it has allowed me to love him more, to feel like I really do have a friend, and to matter more. And that's the first commandment, of course, is to love God. Any thoughts, Jonathan?
Yeah. Before I give my thoughts, I figured I'd show I just walked over here by the church's building, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the church that you and I were raised in, anyways. So this is that, and here's the sign. You can see that. So visitor center. So Yeah, I'll just keep walking around here. If I see anything else interesting, I'll mention it. You try to remind me at about 10 minutes before 11, I probably need to go.
Sure. Yeah, we go another 15 minutes. Let's just go about another 15.
Yeah, so like formal and informal, I've thought about that. I've also thought about direct and kind of like you mentioned, like if you're in the throne room of God, it's like, this isn't a time for bouncy, trouncy, fun. I get that feeling too when I read about revelations given to people. Of course, there's some revelations that are a part of kind of your and my heritage, but it's the same as I read Ezekiel or Jeremiah or other people. You get this feeling like God is serious face on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
woe be unto them who pervert the straight ways of the Lord. You get this kind of feeling like there's no room here for if you step to the left, you step to the right. Even Isaiah talks about that. He said he was in the presence of God, and he says, woe unto me, for I am undone. I am undone. And then the angel goes and he takes the tongs and he gets a live coal from the fire, and he comes over and he touches Isaiah's lips. And when he touches Isaiah's lips, his iniquity is purged. And interestingly, like when his iniquity is purged, he begins to chat with God. I didn't think about this until I started talking about this thing with Isaiah, but yeah, so like, his iniquity is purged, and then it's like God's like, okay, we need somebody to go down and do this thing, and he's like, I'll do it. But before that point, he was in fear and in awe. So I kind of wonder if there is a parallel there in a sense that it's like, while our iniquity is still unpurged, that's how we experience God. Very formal, very straight, very strict, and like kind of condemning. You know what I mean? That's the way it feels. It's like, God is looking at me, judging me constantly, and I have to be on my best behavior and have my suit just right and my tie tied just perfectly, or else he's going to look down from the high seats and he's going to call me out. But then it's like, as we enter into a relationship of grace with God, it begins to be more, like every day. It's like, hey, I got this thing I need someone to do. And you're like, I'll do it. I don't know. I went through my mind. So I don't know if you can see, there's a church over here, an LDS church. Anyway, all right, go ahead. Any thoughts?
Yeah. The nature of God being the whole span of human. Oh, yeah. We're most familiar with having a father and a mother. And there's times when our father and mother, hopefully, are just friends. They're just like, they're almost like peers. They're down there playing with you when you're a little kid, and they're acting like a little kid, and you're just like loving it. And Jesus does invite people, like, except you be as a little child, you can't come into him, or you can't come into the kingdom. And of course, he is the kingdom. In other words, he's telling you, two things. One, you got to obey me as a parent because I said to. That's why. But another way in which Jesus is he's like a ideal parent who's down there playing with the kids, non-judgmental, helping them learn their ABCs. Let's do our ABCs once again, trying to get your attention in a playful way. And he uses all the creations on the earth to do this: music and leaves and sky and water. And so we, as we grow older as adults, we can kind of forget that playful, because it's like, oh, life just got more serious. Now we're like Jesus, we're just serious. And Jesus, like, that's not only the, don't put me in that box, because I range between the different boxes. There's the serious box, and over here, the one that I want you to stay mostly in is the look at me as a parent who just dearly loves you, would do anything for you. Would you come down here and play with me? Because I'm all alone, even though I'm 60 years old. Yeah, I'll come down there and play with you. What do you like to do that's fun, Jesus? Oh, I like to sing songs. What do you like, Greg? Oh, I like classic rock. Do you like classic rock? And Jesus goes, oh, I love classic rock. Anything that's lovely, good report, or praiseworthy, I made those things. You made classic rock? Yeah, I did. A lot of people don't know that. But if it's lovely, of good report and praiseworthy, I made those things. Let's rock out, Jesus. And Jesus says, oh, you know what? I've got some new lyrics to that Van Halen song. Oh, I'd like to hear them. And then he sings the song, and it's got some new, and they're Jesus themed. Like, oh, this will help you, because the first commandment is to remember me, or to love me. So when you hear this Van Halen song, you're going to love singing it, even more than the original one. And so there you are, singing a baptized version or a born again version. It's a Jesus version. And he lets me do that. What I've just described is, hey, Greg, why don't you imagine that I'm real and that I do care about everything, all the way down to a sparrow and all the way down to a Van Halen song, because I love Eddie Van Halen. He's one of my children. And so are all the bandmates. I love those guys. And that's why I gave them musical talents. And a lot of their songs are good songs. And so you've learned to like those, but I'm going to teach you how to like them in a new way. And so that's what most people call, okay, Greg, you got quite an imagination. Well, there you go. That's exactly what's required. If you're going to get closer to Jesus, you have to imagine things that are different than what the world has given you, even religious. The idea I just suggested that Jesus will go so low to help an individual that he'd actually changed the lyrics on a song that was a top 40 hit. He would do that. I can testify. No, he would do that. And other people have similar testimonies, not of maybe music, but they may have of things that Jesus comes down and makes an allowance for them so that they can feel good about their lives at a given period in time in their growth, just like you would a little kid. Oh, that's so good. Look at you hit the ball. And a cynic says, they hit it 10 feet. Why are you feeding that kid a load of crap, Jesus? That was a T-ball. It was so easy to hit, and they hit it 10 feet. And Jesus would know that person's from the devil, because Jesus is trying to encourage this kid. And so when he said, that's so good, Johnny, he meant it in a relative sense. He didn't say, oh, and the next step you'll do next week is we'll have you playing in the Major League Baseball. No, he's not going to do that, probably, unless he wants to do a miracle. But he's trying to encourage, because he knows it's not about baseball. It's not about the songs. It's about a relationship, and having Johnny, or in this case, Greg, trust him. Oh, okay, so you like some of the same things I like, Jesus. That's cool. And it's like developing a relationship of like a love relationship. So little 18-year-old Johnny, he meets Susie. She's 18 years old, and he hates country music. But as soon as he starts dating Susie says, "Oh, I just love Garth Brooks." Well, will we be surprised if Johnny starts taking a real interest and taking a second look? Maybe country music is good. Yeah, that's called charity. You make allowances. Oh, okay, if that's what you like, Susie. So there's Johnny and Susie. Susie, a little ditty about Johnny and Susie growing up in the heartland. And they go, yeah, we like Willie Nelson together. And so this is how Jesus wins. Then when I start saying, well, you like classic rock, what else do you like, Jesus? Then he says, I like homeless people. I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not my favorite thing. No, Greg, you haven't seen it right. And so then he starts bringing me into his little world. I get sucked in by this love of Jesus. And the next thing you know, anything that Jesus likes, I start liking it. Well, this is an approximation of what we have on Earth, what I've just described between Johnny and Susie. That actually occurs. I've known people like that, like, oh, I hate country music. But once they meet the right person, their love interest, all of a sudden they've made an allowance. They've seen the light. Okay, anything, Jonathan?
Yeah. So yeah, I like the direction you're going. You give me a couple thoughts. Before I do, I'm gonna show you another sign, another building. So this building, I don't know who erected it or what, but I don't know if you can see this. I don't know who these people are. Like, I don't know what their kind of claim as far as it says the Remnant Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. So this is another, I can't even see my phone right.
Yeah, we can
Anyways,
see that. I can see it here.
so anyways, old building. It says the building was built in 1929, and which that's interesting. It's close to the, well, it would have been before the Saints came here, I guess. Anyway, before the early Mormons came here. So anyways, okay,
Um,
back to,
I'm gonna, yeah, you go ahead. I'm going to give you the last word. Go ahead.
oh, all right. Um, so a couple things that come to mind. Number one, with regards to the idea, it's this idea you and I have been talking about of mixing. It's like, we get the idea. I think one of the reasons why we have a struggle of why we have, uh, it seems like humans very much a tendency to think black and white. Like in any issue, it's like, who's wrong? It's like, are you for country or are you for classic rock? One or the other. It can't be both. You know, very
Yep.
black and white sort of thinking. It's like, and there's no way that possibly someone who likes classic rock could like country until that moment that you described, right? Because someone they love is interested in country. So then they look at it a little closer. Well, what is it about country that she likes, And it's like, and they end up seeing something, good, virtuous, lovely, of good report. You say, well, there can be nothing good, virtuous, good report about country or about classic rock, let's say, or about heavy metal, And so here's the thing that I wonder if we don't understand that's different. And I wonder if this is what gets us hung up, is that I think that much of what we think is the truth is our culture. So it's not so much like I wonder, like here I am at this center of like Mormonism. For those who are watching who are not Mormon, I apologize. This is kind of a day where we're kind of thinking about this and celebrating a little bit of our history. But it's like, I get to thinking about it, and it's like, okay, well, how much of my upbringing in the LDS church was cultural? How much of it was, you know, country versus pop, or I don't know, Mozart and Salieri. It's two different renditions of something. It's like I don't know. So I guess my point is this: is that it's like we get this purest view of things. Who has the truth, you know? And we look at it to be all one thing, and we think of it black and white, but I kind of wonder if God sees it differently. If God sees it in such a way that it's like, you know what? If I could get, it's like if I could get into that little group, if I could get inside that church over there, you know, like I bet you I could look around and see a lot of things that are beautiful, that if I was there too, they would be even better, right? It's like I get the feeling he doesn't come at it with this energy of like, I'm going to, um, I'm going to come in and change everything and bring something totally different. It's like, so the scripture that comes to mind is I think about the analogy. Here, I'll hurry up. The analogy is that of like, the analogy is one of, if I could think through here. Okay. So the analogy is, it's the parable of the 10 virgins. And the idea is that Christ is coming to the 10 virgins, and 5 of them are left out of the feast, and 5 of them stay, or 5 of them are not going to be married to Jesus. 5 of them are going to be married to Jesus. But it's like, this is an idea which is really fascinating, because when a man and woman come together and have a marriage, they produce children. And the children are not just dependent on the father for their genetics, they're half dependent on the mother. And we're supposed to, as a church, consider ourselves the bride. So this is a fascinating idea. That means, like, if God were to try to do a work, but instead of doing it, in the Western world, he decided to do it over in the Eastern world. It means that when he comes in, that it would look different, right? It would be something different. A different child would be born. And so, because it's a different person, a different culture over in the East, in China or Vietnam or something. And so I find that kind of interesting. But I know it smacks against much of the way we look at things in the West. It's like, no, God came and said certain definitive things, and the way I interpret those things is the right way. Anyways, I think it's for me. I've come to the point where I embrace the other view. It's like I'm always looking for how God is working in the different places that I go. I'm looking for Christ in it, and hopefully, if Christ is in me, I bring something good to the picture too by the conversation that I have in the context of the setting. Anyways, any last thoughts, Greg?
No, I like those comments. And one of the things when I got born again, Jesus emphasized very heavily is that he is a God of mystery, and that people can nurture a appreciation for surprise, and if they don't, then it's to their detriment in terms of relationship with Jesus, because that's one of his one of the parts of his nature is that he is mysterious. And the prophets who get a bigger glimpse, they go all the way to he's unknowable. It's like, word can't say what he's like. And so humility is often what God's calling for, and it has to be nurtured along with developing that relationship for God, so that the more truth you have about God, and he makes those truths available, they come paired, they come entangled, they come encumbered with ambiguity. I say encumbered because it's kind of like a weight. The more I know, the less I understand. The more truth I have, God, it just seems like it's becoming more ambiguous. And you would be correct. There is his nature. And we have different words for that. But as you go on that path of truth and ambiguity, one of the words is surprise. You're going to be surprised. Your mind is going to be blown. And if your mind in your relationship with Jesus is not getting blown, then that tells you you're not progressing very far. Because a
Yeah.
relationship, a holy relationship between like a man and a wife, should have that same thing. There should be an element of surprise. You're like, wow, after 32 years, I'm still discovering things, and I never knew you. Oh my goodness, I thought I knew you. And
Yeah.
that requires a high level of charity because you
Yeah.
think, I know this person, and you do within a certain sphere, but you can become like a Pharisee and a Sadducee. Like, I'm going to keep this person in a box till I die. This is who they are. They're unchanging, and they've never been that way. God is unchanging, but it's surprising to us because we are so far from his understanding his true nature that yes, it is a path of surprise. But that's one of the first things he had to emphasize to me is I'm going to be sharing as you get to know me, Greg. I mean, this is how I would frame it if I was going back in 2015. Greg, you've been born again, which means your mind is about to be blown in so many ways. As I lead you forth, whatever you thought you knew, all right, and you know some good stuff. You've been blessed to grow up in a church that has some restored truth. But what I'm going to show you personally is going to blow your mind. Others aren't going to believe it. I will show it to you in a way that's convincing to you, and you'll know that it's true or that it's very highly likely. And yet, others who haven't had this experience, well, they'll just treat it as a thing of not. So, part of the thing is being surprised while others around you are not. The Pharisees and Sadducees weren't like blown away. They knew exactly this is just another rogue preacher because they weren't open to the what if this was the Messiah that we were looking for? What if he wasn't coming down here to put Rome down immediately? And that became a real struggle. And they were not very open to surprise. And in fact, that's the nature of most formal organizations that they become more and more formal. Guess what they become? More and more risk averse. It's risky to support after you've built your life on a certain thing for all these years to see it come tumbling down. To quote Jesus in a song by Fleetwood Mac, who was written by what's your name, Stevie Nicks. Um, take take my love, take it down. Build a mountain and turn around and see it falling. I can't remember, but basically, that's what happens is um, we build this mountain of understanding. We're born on that mountain, and all of a sudden it starts coming down. And like, hold it, what's happening? Um, and she sings, I've been uh, uh, changing since I built my world upon you, but time makes you bolder. Even children get older. I'm getting older too. And so Paul says, when I was a child, I put away, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child. When I became a man, I put away childish things. And he wasn't saying I didn't become like a little child. He was just saying, whoa, my understanding is shifting. And that should be the pathway of all saints, is an openness to where you're having surprises and you start like I did, like, oh, Jesus is so surprising. So I'm hesitant to judge another person's situation. So like maybe Jesus is doing that with them. Because the God I know, he has surprised my past self. Like, oh my goodness, I used to think this too. I used to think, well, God would never do X, Y, or Z, but I've seen that he does X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, wow, I don't understand what's going on. Anyways, I've said enough. You understand what I'm speaking of there. I'll, I'll give you the last word if it is that.
Um, yeah, so last word. Yeah, so surprise. What I wonder is if, like we're preparing for like Christ's second coming. The idea is it's this big surprise. Nobody knows when. So when Christ comes into your life, plan on surprises. Is that part of the message? It's like when he comes the second time, the time he comes, you know, um, to you, it's like it's gonna be a surprise. As I've been walking along, I think you saw I showed a couple more signs, and I showed a picture. There's a rock church, all these different groups. I don't even quite know. I'm probably going around visiting and seeing what each one believes, um, and I hope to be, I expect to be pleasantly surprised by what I experience here in Independence, Missouri. Anyway, I think.
Hey, Jonathan, let me read the lyrics. I think Jesus wants me to read the lyrics to that song.
Hey, Greg.
All right, here it is.
You.
Yeah.
Um, your audio is like crackling. I don't know if it's when I was there, I noticed that the camera you have has a mic as well, I think. I don't know if it's but I can still understand you, but next time maybe I don't know if you have could set it up so it doesn't go through the mic on the video or what, but anyways, it is kind of
I get what you're saying. My okay, let me see if I can change that. Just
okay.
turn on my I'm in a different. Can you hear me?
Say something again.
Okay. So here okay, here's that song. Can you hear me okay? This is the song. Can you hear me okay, Jonathan?
Yep.
Is that better?
It is better.
Okay. I took my love, I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills till the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing since I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Well, I've been afraid of changing because I've built my life around you, but time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Oh, I'm getting older too. Oh, take my love, take it down. Oh, climb a mountain and you turn around. And if you see my reflection in the snow covered hills, will the landslide bring it down? And if you see my reflection in the snow covered hills, well, the landslide bring it down. Ooh, the landslide bring it down. And so that song has always kind of spoke to me in a poetic way that kind of connects with what we're talking about. The nature of life kind of and it falls down and it's yeah, that's it. And it's a mess. Jesus is in this mess, and there's no other way. Change is what we're about because we're trying to um, get to know a being who doesn't change. His ways are straight, ours are crooked. So those surprises are inevitable because we have to be righted. We have to um, however we feel about things needs to change. Whatever we believe about things needs to change. Whatever we do about things needs to change. Not all at once, but over time. And the more open we're up to that change, he'll do it quick. That's what I found. I continue to open myself to his change, and boy, things move pretty fast as he takes advantage of my broken heart and contrite spirit, like, okay, Lord, take me where you want me to. And there's a speed. He will hasten his work in that when you bring that attitude.
I'll just throw one last thing in. Just I like that phrase, mirror in the sky, what is love? It's like that's the question, it's like we're all looking up, and it's like so often we're looking at ourselves. It's like looking at a mirror. What is God to us? Well, it's a reflection of ourselves because we don't fully know God, but we're asking, like we're looking through the mirror, because the world has a way of bringing down everything that you thought was good and holy and lovely and love. Mirror in the sky. We're all asking, like, mirror in the sky, what is love?
Yeah. And and we mirror him because we're created after his image. So he can look down on us and say, mirror down there, Absolutely.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep. Thank you. And we will see you next week and in between, of course.